Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody attending the final day of TMF week, which is sad. But today is all about our customers. So we are super excited to be putting on our first customer community day on as part of TMF week. This is something that we've been waiting to do for such a long time. We've started community sessions with our customers, and now our first customer community day. Today we're this packed with really great sessions that we're going to kick today off with a customer keynote. So we're going to hear from Paul Fenton, Montrium CEO, and Catherine Cincerelli, our product manager. And then later on today, we've got some system training, which is going to talk a little bit about risk-based QC and how to define a risk-based QC workflow within eTMF Connect. And then we have also some really great training on an agile approach to TMF to improve inspection readiness. So packed day with lots of really great sessions, great content. Of course, all of this is really built for you, the customer, but we do have, I'm sure, many organizations attending today that aren't customers that might be looking to understand a little bit more about what it's like to be a Montrium customer. So for those of you that are attending in that capacity, welcome. And of course, welcome to all of our users. So with that, I'm going to try and speak the least today. I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues, Paul and Catherine, to kick off the customer keynote and talk a little bit more about what's Montrium's vision for eTMF Connect. Paul, Catherine, I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Oliver. Really excited to be here again today. This is my fourth session of the week, but it's been a great week so far, and I'm sure that today is going to be fantastic as well. Catherine and I today had the pleasure of talking a little bit about what our vision is for our product, for our eTMF product, and also, what are the challenges or the key areas of focus for the industry that we see, and how our product is aligning to that. So that's really what we're going to be doing. And so I'm going to kick things off by talking a little bit about some of the trends that I see in the industry, some of the challenges I see in the industry, and talking about maybe ways that we can better address these things. So the first thing I really want to talk about is the fact that we really need to change the way that we organize and manage TMF content, and notably digital TMF content. When we look at TMF today, the vast majority of the content is digital, originates electronically. And the problem that we have, I think, is that we're still organizing things in a paper-based manner. And let me explain a little bit more what I mean by that. So, the reference model, which is a great thing, and the vast majority of organizations are using it, including, I'm sure, many of you, and I know that our clients are, because obviously our system uses the reference model, was really defined 12 years ago, when the majority of people were still using paper. And so it's very paper-centric, and it's very functional in the way that it's defined. I think that it can be quite challenging to use the reference model as it is, because the problem is that it doesn't allow us to easily tell the story of the study. Quite often, there are artifacts that are contained within various different process zones that all need to be pulled together for us to really be able to understand exactly what happened. It's also quite challenging from a completeness standpoint as well. And so I think that we need to take a new approach in the way that we organize things, and notably start thinking more of a process-based approach, because processes really allow us to tell the story. And so that's really a key focus for us at Montrium, and I think will also become a key focus for the industry. Next slide. I think we also need to think about how we can improve analytics within our solutions, and also be able to better detect issues with the TMF proactively. When we look at the eTMF systems out there today, including ours, they're very much focused on the operational aspects of trial master file, so collecting content, indexing it, QCing it. So it's very sort of operational in nature. And we do have some reports, and we do have sort of the key sort of basic metrics that we need, like completeness, quality, etc. But I think that we could get so much more. There's so much information that we have within the TMF, and we could use that information to make better decisions and drive clinical processes if we were able to extract it and analyze it. And so I think we need to do a better job of providing analytics tools and visualization tools to the industry. And then I also think that there's an opportunity to put in place tools that are very similar to what we see in the data management world, to be able to run edit checks on our TMF to identify issues proactively. So things that just don't quite make sense. And we don't really do that today electronically. We do it very much manually, and it's a very labor-intensive thing to do. We also, I think, need to change our mindsets a little bit. Today, the TMF function is very much seen as an archivist function. So they're focused on collecting artifacts, organizing those artifacts in archives, and then ensuring the long-term retention of those artifacts. Now, we still need to do that, of course, but also I think that as we start to move more and more towards data and away from documents, we need to start to evolve the role of the TMF management group, and they need to become more data analysts rather than archivists. And I think that definitely is a key trend that we'll see in the future, where the TMF team is really focusing more on the quality and the completeness of the data and the information contained within the TMF to tell a complete and accurate story. And that's really key, I think. Next slide. The other area that I think is super important, and especially with the upcoming release of ICH E6R3, is risk-based approach. And I think that ideally it would be great if we could have some kind of standard framework for appropriately evaluating risk within the TMF. And I know that this is an area that I've had several discussions with industry colleagues, and everyone kind of gets excited about it, because it's true that today risk-based approach is quite challenging in TMF because of the sheer volume of information that we have and the complexity of TMF. And so I think that there's definitely a very interesting use case to develop a standard framework for the industry. And then, of course, we also want systems to be able to embrace that framework and provide risk scoring and risk management tools, which will drive our TMF processes, will drive inspection readiness, and also even help us with the evaluation of risk of the clinical trial itself. Next slide. And then we need better tools for inspections. Today, trial master file systems or electronic trial master file systems don't really have much when it comes to inspection management tools and inspection readiness tools. And I think that this is a real an area where there's actually a lot of potential, because obviously today we're seeing direct access by the regulators more and more, especially in Europe, but even in North America. We're also seeing remote inspections, and we're seeing a lot more focus on things like traceability and audit trail and a whole bunch of things. And so we need better tools. And today we don't really have any tools to allow us to prepare for inspections, to manage the conduct of the inspection, and then obviously all of the observations and citations and the follow-up of that, and even the trending of that. And so I think that there's definitely opportunities here to improve the way that we manage inspections across the board. And I think that we should be developing tools to help our clients manage inspections. Moving forward to the next slide. And then finally, I think we need better interoperability and faster access to information. So when we think about trial master file, it's not just about documents, and it's not just about the eTMF system. It's actually about all of the information that we generate in the study that allows us to tell the story of the study. And so there's information that can be contained within other systems like IRT, like EDC, like the quality management system, the pharmacovigilance system. All of these systems contain information that is relevant to the trial master file and is useful for telling the story of the study. And so we really need to focus on how we can, number one, get access to that information, and then present all of the information from the TMF as one whole, rather than being very disjointed in multiple different systems. We also want to have much better interoperability between those systems so that we can get faster access to the information. We don't want to be extracting PDFs of your monitoring visit reports from your CTMF and uploading them into your TMF. No, we want to be able to access them directly at the source from our system, and very easily get access to the information. I mean, it may be that we don't even open the CTMS system. We actually are able to access the information directly and present it as part of the story of the trial master file. So this is really important, and there's lots of industry initiatives underway right now to improve this specific area. And we, of course, as a vendor, are very involved in that, and also are looking at how do we integrate those initiatives into our environment and provide our clients with that ability. So with that, I'm going to pass things over to my colleague Catherine, who is going to dig into these areas a little bit more and give you much more visibility in terms of our roadmap and where we're going with all of this, and what you can expect to see in the future in our eTMF Connect product. Catherine, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. So firstly, hi, everybody. I love that our small customer community session meetings has turned into a full day of webinars at eTMF Week. So I feel proud that the host of the customer community gets to do this today. So thank you all for joining, and it's really nice to see so many names that I recognize. When Paul first presented these slides, I realized how inspiring it is to see how our systems can change and how they can evolve. And obviously, this is not a conversation we've only had for TMF Week. This has been ongoing for a long time. And so our job here at Montrium is to really take these optimizations and think about how the TMF historically has been managed and how we can really leverage new technology to improve it and to meet today's standards. And so what I have on screen here is sort of what this system would look like. And at the center of it all, it is our clinical intelligence system. And this is really, I guess you can call it like our eTMF 2.0. Because it goes a little bit further than just managing your documentation as a static repository. And we've really broken it down into 4 parts. And the first at the top are your inputs, right? So today, a lot of these inputs are done manually. But tomorrow, what we're hoping is that you'll have inputs like triggers and events. So real-time events that happen, like adverse events, for example. But also documents and data that are coming from other systems. So SOPs or training certificates from your quality systems, or new milestones that have been achieved, or new sites that have been added from your CTMS. And so all of these different inputs are then processed into your clinical intelligence system, but also through your clinical process model. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But essentially, all those inputs give you things that you need to do. So they might generate placeholders, for examples. Okay. Now, you also have, so that would be your output, which are your placeholders. But then you have the human aspect, right? So getting documents and data into the system. And so that's that bottom portion that you see. And what's really important there is automation. We want to make those long, tedious tasks easier for you. And so we can do that through machine learning or AI processing, metadata extraction, and anomaly detection. And so what that really means is automating the upload of all that documents, automating the extraction of all of that metadata, and automating the detection of any issues that you find in those documents through rules. And I'll talk more about that later as well. Now, all of those inputs that you have into your clinical intelligence system, is inspectable, right? And inspection readiness is key here. And so having constant oversight on all of that documentation and data and content would produce things like health check reports, risk scoring, and storyboarding. And anything that's found would then produce new queries for you to then resolve. So we always have that human aspect here, but our job really is to automate all of those things. And I'll talk about this later as well, but this industry is ripe for automation because of the sheer amount of documents and data that we can train these systems on. And so you might be looking at this and saying, okay, but when, right? So it's our job here to figure out how we can deliver on this vision. And if you've come to our customer community sessions before, you know that we really cap it to a month or 2 months in the future because we want to make sure users understand what's coming and can start preparing for that. But today's a little different. It's TMF week, and so we're really giving you a look into the future. And so this is our longer term roadmap. We've really split it up into 4 focus areas or missions that we want to accomplish, and they're really user focused. And so the first one is enhanced workflows. So how can we simplify your day-to-day? The second is greater insights into your data. So what does that mean? How can you leverage the data that you have in app to gain better insights? Inspection readiness tools. So this is the risk scoring, that storyboarding that we spoke about, and some other really interesting features that will allow you to tell the best story possible of your trial. And then, of course, the automation and AI component, which, again, we're trying to reduce your time to task. So let's start here with our first bubble, which is custom reporting. And again, I'll get into details about most of these topics, but this is the sequence of events. And so we're actually currently working on some custom reporting. And what that means for you is that you'll be able to extract data, log your extracts of that data, and try and manipulate your information so that you can really understand exactly the quality of your TMF and what's happening in your trial. After that, the next few bubbles are really focused on enhanced workflows. So things that we've seen and have been asked for, like ISF reconciliation and certified copies, are coming after that. And then we move into query management and anomaly detection. We move back into sort of an inspection readiness tool because at this point, with our queries and our anomalies, we've started to set the foundation to be able to have these oversight tooling. So things like risk scoring, artifact clustering, storyboarding, and predictive completeness. And some of these are iterations of the things in the past. And so predictive completeness is actually the combination of risk scoring and artifact clustering and storyboarding. So these are iterations of these inspection readiness tools. At the bottom here, we have greater insights into your data. And this, when I spoke about iterations, and this is especially true for insights and reporting. So we'll start with static reports that you can export and filter through. And then we'll move to some in-app visualization. So these would be pre-canned reports, and we'll take your feedback so that we know exactly what you want to see, and we'll give you dashboarding. But that's going to evolve into some really powerful custom dashboarding, where then you can decide exactly what you want to see and exactly what trends and analytics you want to pull from the system. And finally, we move into that automation and AI category, where we're really looking at integrations and AI processing, document duplication detection, in-document QC, etc. Okay, so how do we automate some of those things that are manually done today? So I want to zero in on these missions. And again, I'm not going to go through each and every one of our areas of focus, but I do want you to see the progress that we've been making in each of these areas and how we've sort of been thinking about it. And of course, if you have feedback or questions, you can pop it in the chat. And I think Oliver will be monitoring that. So our first mission, simplify your day-to-day. What we've been working on currently is query management. And so what I have on screen here is a mock-up of all the queries that have been generated on a document, in your study. And then you can also see the status of that query and the owner of that query. Eventually, this will also evolve, and queries might be prioritized based on risk. So, is this a query on a protocol or on a document that is a little bit lower in risk? And so we'll start to incorporate those concepts in here as well. Something else that is in the same vein, right? So trying to find issues on your document so that you're always inspection ready is anomaly detection. So we spoke about this a little bit in my first slide, but there's going to be a set of rules in the system that we've added, like your SAP approval date can't be larger than your database lock date, for example. And so this will automatically be done by the system. And so you'll add documents into the system. Your system will process that. And maybe for the first iteration, you'll have to put those dates in manually. But again, with automation, that will evolve and the system will automatically give that information to you. But your check will still happen. And it will then raise an issue or raise a query on that information and on that document so that you can then resolve it. Our second mission is to be ready earlier. So this is very important, obviously, and probably an area that is the most ripe for optimization, and it's inspection readiness tools. And this is really where I feel like Montrium is going to be innovating in. And because our areas of focus here are risk scoring, artifact clustering, storyboarding, and predictive completeness. And so all of these things lend into what do I need to do today, or what's the most important thing I need to do today? How can I visualize my trial in a better way, right? Not just via a static reference model, but more based on processes that we're currently working on. Storyboarding, what kind of timelines do I have, and how can I easily see what's happened in my trial in real life represented in an easy way in my system? And finally, predictive completeness, which is sort of the addition of all, or the sum of all of these different things. And we'll talk a little bit more about predictive completeness in a minute. So what I have here is artifact clustering. And so what's represented here is a process, right? There's been a protocol that's changed. Perhaps there was a new inclusion criteria. And so that's actually set off now a chain reaction. So a single document, a single protocol amendment has triggered all of these different artifacts and events. So now you need to review your statistical analysis plan. You have to get new IRB approvals, new signature pages for each of your countries and your sites. And so a single artifact like your protocol amendment can actually trigger, upwards of 1,000 artifacts. In today's eTMF world, placeholder management is not dynamic. So you don't know what you don't know, or you don't know what will happen in the future, I should say. And so with these processes, we'll start to understand what needs to be generated based on a single event or upload of document in this case. Now, what I really want to stress here is that this is one of many different processes. And we're currently detailing all of these different events and triggers and what that would mean for the eTMF. Now, all of this is essentially what feeds into predictive completeness. So by using events and triggers, placeholders can be created in real time based on real life events, not just a manual configuration of your eTMF index. So the process model allows for the generation of placeholders based on your study design, on expected processes, and on events and artifacts. And so you can see here we have a screen of what this would potentially look like. And you have your process, protocol amendment, V1, and all of your different sub-processes that are triggered from that. And all of this would also be color-coded, so you can get a really easy snapshot of how those clusters of artifacts or how those sub-processes are doing. And being able to click into those and viewing them at the bottom in terms of individual artifacts is what we would then call the cluster. And of course, you can see on either side, we have timelines of events. And so this again feeds into inspection readiness because I can see exactly what happened at what point in time, not just based on dates, but based on events and things that have happened in real time in real life. Mission number 3. We really need to focus on reporting and dashboards. We need greater insights into our data. And so our areas of focus here are custom reporting, more export tools, in-app visualizations, and custom dashboards. Okay. So I'm happy to announce that we will be releasing a reporting center, and I will give more details in the next customer community session. So be sure to attend that. But this is something that is being worked on today, and it will look something like this. So the ability to filter based on different pieces of information, different pieces of metadata that exist in the system, and using logical operators to pull a static export of your system. You'll be able to save my reports and share reports all throughout the system as well. And we'll have the concept of favoriting as well. So if there's something that you always want to come back to and refresh, you'll be able to do that as well. So this is really step 1 for insights. And as we evolve this feature, it's going to turn into what we call pre-can dashboards. So we'll take, the 10 or 20 or however many most important metrics to you. And so we'll send out surveys and we'll have discussions with all of our users, and we'll build a dashboard for you. So we'll focus on obviously the 3 biggest pillars, which are timeliness, quality, and completeness. But things like time to approval or time from upload to final, averages per study country site per user. So how can we show this in a visual manner and improved quality? Number of rejected documents per QC, per country, per site. Sorry, number of rejected QCs per study country or site. I know today we do that through filters and views, but we want to be able to visualize that. And so that's what these pre-can dashboards will be about. Of course, it doesn't end here. As these features evolve, we'll be able to let you manipulate that information and create your own dashboards as you please on any of the data that can be found in the system. And our last mission, so mission number 4, is really about that, that third section in our overall model, which is how do I automate the tasks that are most time consuming? And we're going to do that through native integrations, open API support, AI document processing, and document duplication detection. Okay, so this is really how we're going to leverage technology, APIs, and AIs. So the first thing here that we want to work on is integrations. Integrations, again, we're going to take an iterative approach. First, we'll integrate our quality systems with our eTMF systems and our CTMS systems, because I think the flow between those 3 systems are crucial to understanding the story of your trial. So I've given 3 examples here of what those integrations might look like. So we're not just pulling documents, we could be pulling documents and data as well to ensure that we understand the whole story and that we're not manually repeating information in each one of our systems. So here we've added a site to our CTMS with a specific status. The eTMF should then pull that site with the status as identified, and we should then create placeholders, right? So your feasibility assessment, your debarment, and your acceptance of IB should then be created. Okay? So we have different examples of that, and it's not, only one way. An eTMF wouldn't just pull information. It could also push information back into your CTMS, especially when we have those anomaly detection capabilities. So it's a push and a pull. And I think this is really representative of what happens in real life, right? Our technology ecosystem needs to represent how real life events happen, and where this flow of information should go. So once we have all of these different integrations, we want to start working on leveraging AI to reduce all of those time-consuming tasks. I know we have the capability for batch indexing and editing common metadata, but these are still meticulous tasks that we have to do on a day-to-day basis. And so I think AI can really, really help reduce those time-consuming tasks through 3 buckets. The first is classification. So the system can classify documents based on the reference model. Metadata extraction. So what information can we pull directly from the content of the document so that you don't need to go and manually put in your approval date, for example. And in document QC. So if we know, and if our systems have been trained on all of these documents and data, can we do a like for some of these documents to find issues inside the document? So let's zero in on on all of those points. So first, AI for indexing and classification. I think our industry especially is ripe for this type of technology because it requires big data to be trained on, but also because a lot of our document types are standard. Think of a 1572. There also exists different document types that are very similar. So, a third-party resume versus another resume. So there's a lot of repeated documents in our reference model as well. And the AI model is really looking for different attributes that can be examined. So the content of the data, the file format, and the custom vocabulary that can be found inside your document. For example, financial disclosure. And so with all of these different attributes, we can get a pretty high hit rate on the type of document and that this is based on the reference model. So classification becomes achievable. What we can also do, though, is extract metadata. So for example, you can see in this document, we can pull information like name, signature, date, and comment. Okay? But at the same time, if we pull that information, we know that perhaps this should be filled and is a required field, or perhaps because this machine has been trained on 1,000 other of these document types, it knows that 99% of the time, the signature field is filled. And so we can actually do in-document QC using AI as well. So here you would have a flag that says, hey, this is a missing signature. So with all of these different aspects and all of these different missions, we're really hoping that we can move the industry to represent a more technological background. And with these 4 missions, we're really hoping that the future of Montrium can help you automate all of your tasks, simplify your day-to-day, give you better oversight and inspection readiness on your documents, and greater insights into your data. So I'll take any questions if we have any. Oliver?
Yes, we don't have any direct questions. Lots of excitement in the chat, which is great. I think for me and everybody else in the Montrium team, obviously we got a bit of a preview of what was going to be presented today. But I mean, I think everyone will agree what an incredible presentation, and of course an insight into sort of where our platform is going. So thank you both for taking us through that today. I think it was incredibly insightful. So if anybody does have any questions for Paul or Catherine, please let us know. You can throw them into the chat or the Q&A. If there are none, we'll wrap up today's session and get prepped and ready for our next session starting at 10 a.m. Eastern. Catherine, Paul, thank you so much for taking us through this. It's been an absolute pleasure to join you on this session, and we'll see you on the next one.
Great.
Okay, great. Thank you, Oliver.
And thanks for all the
you,
comments and smiles.